My name is Richard Mireles, and I want to welcome you to the Prison Post. This is your podcast for conversations surrounding the need to reform prisons from the perspectives of formerly incarcerated people, community members, and leaders in the restorative justice movement. The Prison Post will feature an episode every Wednesday with people who are in the fight to restore lives and heal communities. All right. Welcome back to the Prison Post number 32. Any famous 32s out there? Super excited to be on the show today. My name is Richard Mireles. I'm the Director of Communications with the CROP organization and also the host of the Prison Post podcast. You can visit our website at croporganization.org to learn more about what we're doing today. I got the famous co-host with me, my favorite guy in red, Jason Bryant.
What up? More like infamous. I don't know about famous.
A little bit famous. CNN, Lisa Ling, episode 1, season 7. From Prison to Prep School. That was an amazing show. You guys want to check it out. $2.99 on YouTube. A little shameless plug there. But today we're continuing our Ready for Life series with our associates. We have KC Matthews on the show with us. Welcome, KC. Looking rather dapper.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to have you. Actually getting married in October, and some of my groomsmen, like Jason, don't know that we might be choosing bow ties.
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yep. Well,
I'll give you a tip.
I'm going to need it. I must confess, I feel underdressed when I'm sitting in some space with someone dressed as fly as yourself, Casey.
No, because you're at home.
Casey is at work.
Yeah.
And he's our third Ready for Life associate to join us on the Prison Post podcast to share his experience, his story, what he's doing today. Casey works at TGIJP. It's not an easy acronym to memorize, but it's the Transgender Variant Intersex Justice Project. He's a formerly incarcerated, passionate criminal justice reform advocate, and just an amazing person who's doing some great work out there in San Francisco. Lives and works in San Francisco, helping justice-involved people, LGBTQ community members, and transgender community find jobs, housing, and we'll get into all that, KC. But we're a little over 2 months into our Ready for Life cohort. It's been a pleasure having you on. Jason's our director, CROP Organization's director of restorative programs. We meet every night from 5:30 to 9:30 with me as a coach till 7. But Jason, you guys go till 9:30 doing leadership for life, leadership development, professional work skills development, digital and financial literacy training. And I'll tell you what, I think we're going to end up missing you guys when you head on to the B2B sales representative training in the tech industry. And it might be a sad week. I don't know. What do you think?
I know, because we the first ones.
Yeah.
We the first ones. And it's like, we always justice involved. So it's like coming from there and meeting new people and building relationships and friendships. So I'm definitely gonna miss you and the knowledge.
Well, you
always have this.
That's right. With you. You might miss Rich. You ain't gonna miss me. I'm gonna be with you every step of the way.
Okay.
That B2B tech sales too. You never know. It's always good to enhance your skill set.
Yes, absolutely.
KC, I was talking to Jason earlier. Let's just talk about some of the things we've learned about KC along the way on our journey together over the last two and a half months. And one of the things that came out, just being passionate about your work as a criminal justice reform advocate, about being a resource to your community. Why does that, tug on your heartstrings? Why does that matter to you so much? Why is it significant? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think that things that are passionate to me and that touch my heart and make me want to advocate for things is things that I've been through. For instance, like the foster care system, the juvenile system, the group home system, things like that, housing, having issues with housing and incarceration and different things like that. So those are my main focal points when it comes to advocating, because I've been through it. I've been through it enough to lead someone else through it. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
That's dope.
Isn't it true that it's one of the areas where we find our passion in life with the things that we know the most about? Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to connect with somebody that they're talking about something that they haven't lived, but it's your lived experience, your life experience. In fact, you were incarcerated at one time, but you've been out for some time now. Would you share how long you've been out and how soon after was it when you were asked to be a part of a documentary? And just tell us a little bit about that documentary and why they chose to follow your life, Casey.
Okay. So August, this August will be 3 years that I've been out. When I first was released from CCWF, which is in Chowchilla, California, I actually didn't know where I was going to go because prior to me being arrested, I was only 18 years old and I got out when I was 30. So I spent all of my 20s in there. And so I didn't really have family support like that. Like my family's around and they live in, but they're all on welfare. And, you know, my mom was on drugs. That's why we was taking when we was younger. I'm the sixth kid of 9. So I really didn't know what my life was going to consist of. All I knew is that failure was not an option for me. So originally I was supposed to get out and come straight to San Francisco to join Walden House, which is another transgender accepting organization out here. But like 2 weeks before I was ready to parole, they denied me. They said due to the fiscal year, no funding. So I really didn't know what was going to happen to me, where I was going to go, anything like that. So there was a pilot program that had just got started, kind of like y'all's did. That's why I'm like, I feel blessed to have been chosen for this program too. But I was the first participant of a program in Oakland called Impact Justice. They originally had a program going to where when the youth commit crimes, they'll, instead of incarcerating them or locking them up, they'll sit the person who got stolen from down and then sit the kid down and talk to them and explain how their actions impacted them and how their actions impacted them instead of incarceration. And so from there, they branched off to wanting to start a pilot program for housing. And I was the first participant to get chosen, where they find empty rooms in people's houses that's willing to rent. And they basically allow you to stay there for 6 months and pay your rent. So that was a real blessing for me because, like I said, I didn't know what I was going to do and where I was going to go. And that came through like 2 days before I was ready to parole. So once I got out, my third day out, I wound up getting a job. My second day out, went to the DMV to get my California ID, my social security card. And, you know, everything was just moving for me really quickly. And then that's when the program had heard about me and Impact Justice and being the first participant. And they wanted to they came from New York. They called Now This to do that documentary on me. I actually have it right here. I'm not sure if you've seen it or not. But yeah, if you go on their website,
yeah,
my pictures still come up.
Okay.
Yeah, but this was the first picture I took when I got out. And that was my host, which is she opened her house to me.
Okay. So
I was there with her for 6 months, and then once the program was over, I pretty much had to go on my own. Yeah.
So I have a question, observation, and a question. So Impact Justice, correct? So this is a program that actually connected, you know, people who committed crimes with the victims. Did you?
Yes. Prior to them wanting to open housing, the pilot program, they had that separate program, you know, where instead of locking the kids up, they would sit them down. But
did you get an opportunity to participate in that yourself?
No, not that part.
Okay.
No, I was only in Oakland for about a year and a half. So my third day out, I had wound up getting a maintenance job, and then everything was going good, and then that situation happened.
Okay. The reason I ask, Casey, is because there's a distinction between what they were offering there, which is a form of, in the truest sense, of restorative justice. The restorative justice is very much, it's victim-centered, and it looks to work on people's rehabilitation by having those interactions between people who commit crimes and people who are victims of them. But the program that we do with Ready for Life is a transformative program. It's transformative. And I'm curious, like, in the distinctions between what you saw happen in that program with the restorative justice, which is great, and what you've been experiencing in the transformational personal leadership for yourself? What has your experience been in the program?
Well, for me, I definitely want to say like the first orientations night, I was like in awe at the wisdom that you spoke, you know, the words that came out of your mouth. It was like, wow, like that make a lot of sense, you know. And I can remember talking to my friend and saying how, man, I want to tell this guy how smart he is, how impactful his words is to my life, but I don't know how to word it. I was like, I want to say I had said what I wanted to say you were like, but my friend said, don't say that, you know. But I was like, well, not in a bad way, but his words just are powerful to me that it makes me want to do right. Your teachings made me want to go look into my credit, you know, made me want to go pay a collection agency, you know, things like that. So I'll just tell you what I was going to say, but don't take it the wrong way. But I really felt like, I was like, he's like so smart. Like the words he says, it's like, it draws me and make me want to. I was like, is that how like Charles Manson was? Like, he was like, don't say that. I was like, no, not in a bad way, but you know how everybody listened to him?
Yeah.
So, like, just in that way, like,
that's,
but not that way.
I promise.
But he was like, no, just say how very impactful he is in your life. And so I never said it. It's a doubt.
No.
Well, yeah,
I appreciate your honesty, Casey. I want to say this. You know, you give me and maybe Rich and our team way too much credit. What's true, what is absolutely true, is any value that you've gotten from this program, which it sounds like you've gotten a lot, has been a direct result of your participation and your willingness to show up and put the effort out. Like, that's what it is. It has very little to do with what we say as much as what you choose to apply to your life. And you're doing a fantastic job. So my hat, if I had one on, it would go off to you. Most definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But the most impactful thing, like, and what means the most to me is the fact that, like even with my gender and being who I am, like, I was still given a equal chance, you know, and that means a lot to me. And because that's all we really want. People, that's all I ever wanted, was somebody to take a chance on me, you know, and believe in me. Right. So I really appreciate throughout all the 25 people that had interviewed for that, I was one of the top 15. And I always think about that, you know. And then, so when you always ask the question, like, well, what is something that you used to think of, thoughts that you used to think of that you see is no longer serving you, you know? And I'll be thinking about that because, you know, younger, I was fed negativity and I started to believe those things, you know? So barely when I started working on myself, that I learned, like, I'm more than that. Like, when I got my GED in prison, I was like, oh, I'm smart, you know? Then I went for my AA and then I felt good, you know? I only got my GED because my dad was on his deathbed and he asked me to. But after that, I took it upon myself to take the college classes because I realized that I was smart, you know? So that's another thing, is that I be down on myself and I'm realizing that those things aren't true. So it's something that I could no longer, like, believe or put energy in.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's true that in our program, those are some of the things that we will bring out in Ready for Life as some of those life sentences. And you don't got to be in prison to have a life sentence. Some of those stories that we've been telling ourselves that are not necessarily true, but that somehow we started using because of our past experiences to limit ourselves, to limit us in our thinking and our future and our careers. And to your point, Casey, about our program, you know, welcoming you, people have asked us, you know, what excludes people from joining Crop Organization's Ready for Life program? We said there are no exclusions. We're all inclusive, and the only requirement is, you know, that you be just as impacted, and
you be committed.
And what?
And you be committed to the program.
So let's talk about commitment. And I want to get into commitment right now. Casey, this is probably one of your busiest days. First of all, you got up this morning, went to work. You're at work right now. You're on our podcast right now. Tonight you'll be on Ready for Life from 5:30 to 9:30. You're also on our Instagram stories, Takeover Tuesday today. where you'll be answering questions from our 700 followers or so. They'll be asking questions throughout the day, and you're recording 15, 30-second videos. So that's the kind of commitment that we're looking for in Ready for Life as well. Somebody who's willing to grind it out for 6 months or a year, and because they're committed to their future, a future worth having, that you have certainly earned and deserved. Earlier when you're talking about Jason, it's kind of funny because you're saying like, was it, is this how Manson was? But here's the thing, and you'll find this when you study leadership books, especially like Dr. John C. Maxwell. They say that leadership is influence. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's the ability to influence others in a positive direction or a negative one, like he did, right?
Right.
And so, Jason, why do you think I stay so close to this guy? One of my closest friends. And when I'm going through something, I'll call him because he's earned it through his transformed life and lifestyle, through his way of being, his thinking. I know he has my best interest at heart. And when people begin to wear that as a leader, it's influential in a positive way. We're super happy that you're on the show today, Casey, and able to share that. When we were talking earlier with Jason, we wanted to ask, what were some of the struggles? You talk about 18 to 30 years old being incarcerated. I know what that's like. What were some of the struggles that you had in there in the carceral system, and how did you overcome them?
Well, it's kind of funny because I always felt like my whole life I had to be an advocate for myself, but me advocating for myself always, me taking the stripes always opened the door for people behind me to not face things anymore, So a lot of the stuff that I dealt with in there was discrimination from a lot of the officers, being transgender in there with facial hair in a women's prison. I faced a lot of stuff. I would try to get boxers made out of sheets, and they'll search my room and try to write me up. And prior to going to prison, I just remember being angry because I was in foster care, angry because I wasn't with my family, and it's 9 of us, 9 of my sisters and brothers, angry because my mom was on drugs, angry because I was different and treated different, that I'd rather be a runaway in the street. So I had a lot of anger in me, but I realized that when I got locked up, that the first 602 that I did against an officer was about the facial hair situation, and I 602'd it all the way to Sacramento, and I felt the sense of power, that I could be assertive with my words and articulate myself in a way to where I don't have to be violent. I don't have to lash out in anger or violence. So I found a lot of strength after that first, when I seen those positive results, so a lot of over the course of my 10 years, that was pretty much my biggest thing, was advocating for myself, being transgender in a place where, it was new for them. And also some of them didn't even want to learn or know. So I was an advocate for myself in there that whole time, pretty much. And I'm grateful that I was able to parole 10 years, no write-ups. I was actually supposed to get out 2 years before I did with CCTRP, but because I was on injections, I got off of my injections to get out, and had a side effect that I had to get back on them. So I wound up staying that extra 2 years, but and then even then but I realized that being in there was just preparing me for when I was to be released, because once I was released, the first job that I had as a maintenance worker in Oakland, one of the biggest homeless shelters out there, I was discriminated against by a supervisor who outed me to my coworkers. So for a year and a half, I was facing, them trying to get on my social media, drive past my house, because it was local. 5 of the facilities were surrounding where I lived.
Right.
And then that was a point of time in my life where I had to leave the area, and I actually went down to LA with my family. Wow. And until I figured out mentally what I was going to do. And then I realized I would just take them to court, and I got a lawyer, and let's just say that no one else will face that discrimination. And then, so I was without a job for a year and a half, no medical, no nothing, because of the way the HR put it, job abandonment. So I couldn't get Medi-Cal or food stamps or anything. medical insurance, using the same needles, but I always go through those hard things, but it always seemed to just open the door for somebody else behind me. So
Sure.
ultimately, I look at it like that, and I'd be okay.
So as someone, Casey, who's so committed to advocacy and fighting for yourself, and like you said, opening the door for people behind you, what are some things that you see could change with the way they help transgender individuals in the system? What are some of the policy changes that you envision?
Well, I definitely had a couple of things in mind. I did want to go back into the foster care systems because I was in a foster care system from the age of 3 till I, basically got locked up at 18 as a runaway. And I just have lived experience to where I could actually, it's mandatory by law now that all social workers and foster parents have to take a LGBTQ training once a year. So when I heard about that, I was like, okay, cool. Nobody else, the kids, at least they having protections now, and it's recognized. So that's a passion for me, is to go back into the foster care system, the agencies, and just pretty much, talk to them. I could sit down in a room and talk to the LGBTQ foster kid and let them know my experiences and what I experiences and what is some things they could do to be heard or to be seen or to, to where they don't have to be a runaway. And then I could also at the same token, look at the foster parent and say, hey, if you're seeing A, B, C, with the kid, it may not be something weird about them, because I was always called weird and this and that. They may just be facing gender identity issues, or, I could tell them different ways of how to deal with them based on my experiences and what made me feel uncomfortable and what made me feel more comfortable being a runaway in the street, So I feel like that's something that I really want to get my feet into, as well as when I do go back into the prisons and stuff, because they remember me from when I was there, and to look at me now, like I said, August would be 3 years that I've been out, and I've accomplished a lot that I'm proud of myself, and just want to be a motivation to the people that I left behind, which are still friends and, family that we.
What are some of those accomplishments, particularly in legislation? We know that you've worked with some legislatures on some laws. Would you be willing to share some of that, Casey?
Sure. I actually brought some stuff right here. So,
Casey got props. Come on.
This is the building. I was an electrician in there. So that was the supervisor electrician. And we built 2 buildings inside of the one prison, a mental health facility and a pharmacy. So I'm a 3rd level electrician, but I just can't pass the math. So that's that. This is the building.
Okay.
See, it's 75,000 square feet. And then this was like the graduation.
Okay.
But this is what I did when I got out. It was a Senate bill, SB 132.
132.
Yeah, to protect the transgenders incarcerated and to be able to get the name changes and stuff. So that was me.
Dignity Act.
Yeah. So that was that. And then this is the letter that Scott Wiener wrote me. Thank you letter way back then.
That's Senator Scott Wiener, right?
Yes. And his thing is he's all about housing and wanting to create more housing for the homeless and this, so yeah, so I've done that. This is the program that I was telling you that I was a part of. So if you go to the website, Impact Justice, my picture pops up first still, which is cool. What else have I done? So after I lost that job, I was able to pick up little odd jobs. I got blessed to be able to work at the UPS airport in Oakland. So I was going there like 3 o'clock in the morning to work late night shifts, just to try to get a little income. And then from there, I was able to become a driver to where I had my own route, which was cool, and then things just got
driving.
UPS truck, the big truck, the big brown truck.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, it was pretty crazy because do you guys know Caltrans?
Yes.
That's right. So that was like, I was there only one day, and I faced that issue again, where it was a supervisor in a van with 8 guys that just got out of prison, and he just started talking and said, "Hey, did you guys hear what happened to LeBron James' son?" And everybody was like, what? And I'm sitting way in the back, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go. It just went on from there, and he's just like, "Oh, I hate gay people. I hate this." And so it was just like real uncomfortable. Anyway, somebody reported it, and then so they wound up getting me out of there. And but anyway, I got blessed and got offered this job that I have now. And so that's how I was able to move from Oakland to San Francisco, as well as they also helped me with housing. Because like I said, I was living in the same area as the last job.
KC, what? Yeah. Listen, I'll say a few things while you straighten out the bow tie. You got to remember when you're on camera, you got to do it the other way. It's backwards, right?
Oh yeah.
So, KC,
Jason, remember that?
Yeah, I will. You look good right now. You're good. You straightened out.
I want to say this to you, KC. There's so many people who make excuses in life. They talk about what they can't do and all the hard times and the trauma. And a lot of it's real. Some of it's perceived. Some people use it as an excuse to justify mediocrity. I've heard just enough in your story and in the last 2 months to know that, whether it be in the foster care system or early incarceration or some of the discrimination that you faced, that, you certainly could be someone who uses what's happened as an excuse to justify mediocrity. But instead, you've come out as a passionate advocate, somebody who's not only working hard for your own, upward mobility, but also for others, to serve others. And when somebody, you were perfect for crop. You were perfect for crop because that's really what we're trying to build in that mindset for others, that, we got to be our own advocates first. No matter what happened in the past, we can't change it. Right. We can't change what happened in the past. It's at some point static. It's sad. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But what are you going to do with the life that you have today? Mm-hmm. What are you going to do for the choices that you have available and the attitudes that you have available today? Not only for you, but for others and for the future you desire. What are you going to do? And, to see what you just shared about the accomplishments, and thank you for having them ready, available, rather, by the way. Yeah. There's someone who comes prepared. To see you involved like that, man, I just see Jason, his face lighting up with, a proud smile. I'm proud of you, and we love you, Casey. And I'm glad to see you out helping people in the way that you are. Mm-hmm. And
I always say, like, I think that my first realization was like growing up. I'm spiritual, and so I believe in the God and then I started doubting, because the things that I went through when I was younger, I started doubting. But then I kept being blessed with things, and then I started asking myself, well, if God don't like gays, or if God don't like this, or why am I so blessed? So I stopped using that as an excuse for me to thank him or believe in him and with my own spirituality. And then that helped me with other aspects of my life. Like, okay, well, I'm not stupid, or I'm not weird, or I'm not dumb, or I'm not, I started eliminating all of those things when I started seeing the potential in myself and what I can do, and then also, like, this is what I preach more so today, is that, like, I can navigate through society right now as a cis man, and nobody would probably know that I'm transgender. But I choose to out myself, because I'm at a point in my life where I'm okay with myself. And so I don't want to just sit up there comfortable and okay with everything that I've been through when there's people going through stuff like I did right now, So I feel like I always want to throw the ladder back down and support and let people know that they're not alone, and that, hey, this is who I am as well. So that's where I get that from, Richard.
Well, leaders go first, and you're definitely leading. It's a noble cause, and really what I'm hearing you talk about, Casey, is systems change. And that's part of our mission too. We're working towards systems change and reentry, and it sounds like you are doing the same work when it comes to equality and recognizing people's ability to be treated with fairness. So that's most admirable.
And a lot of times when people have experienced a lot of hurt, there's something about what God does where he gives those of us the ability to contain the suffering of others and get amongst the suffering of others and help them. You know, I'm a God-fearing person. I know that God loves you. He loves all of us. And if he was here walking the earth, and he is, but in a tangible body, he'd be amongst the suffering. He'd be there, Tenderloin and downtown and all the neighborhoods where people are hurting the most. And if we could equip people with our program, people will make their choices. We're talking about a career in tech, but that's your career development. But with the leadership development, people say, you know what, I want to give back. And where do they want to give back? What about that common denominator? We haven't talked about it yet, Jason, and I'd love to hear even your thoughts. When we were doing our enrollment process, and like you said, we had probably 80 applications come in, and then we finally narrowed it down to 25 people, and then there were 15 people that were chosen. You're one of them, Casey. And I just think about what we didn't know and what wasn't on the applications.
I know.
That's what makes in the foster care system.
Yeah.
Common denominator there. What do you think is going on there? And what has that done for our community?
I just think that I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to hate anybody no more, or I just want to believe that it's just new to people, and people just need to be educated. Like I used to tell people in prison, I'd rather you ask me a question than to assume. I'd rather educate you than for you to run around with rumors and of what's not true. So and it's okay if people don't know or don't understand or don't want to misgender it. That's perfectly fine because it's new. But I just think that just educating, and not necessarily educating, but what am I comfortable with? Like I wrote, my pronouns is he, him. That's how I like to be referred to, and it's just but in a nice way, I feel like, because I've seen other people who say things in a rude way and come off angry, and that won't get a person. That will get a person to just disrespect you even more.
Sure.
I've seen, but it's more so just because that person can be like, oh, well, I really didn't know. And then you jump it down their throat, So I believe that it's not what you say, it's how you say it and your deliverance in it. But I think that it's becoming more talked about, more seen, and it's more light being shed to it that sooner or later it'll be just like a normal thing.
Casey, what do you want to take away from the Ready for Life program? What do you hope to walk away with?
I want to continue to get skills the wisdom and the knowledge and the intellectual things that y'all come and deliver, the guests that you bring on delivers. Because I'm like a sponge and I like to learn. So when I hear something that draws my attention, it means a lot to me, So this whole program does, it really does. Like I said, from the beginning, it has been a blessing to me. Y'all didn't even know that I was transgender during the interview process. I don't think you guys actually found out until after, when we did the 3-day thing, when you did the victim speech, and then I said, yeah, that's when you guys found out. So it always touches my heart. It's still good people out. I was chosen because of what you guys seen and what I delivered, not because of anything else, because you guys didn't know.
You mean we didn't change up on you?
Huh?
We didn't change up on you after we found out?
No.
All right.
I mean, I'll say this, and I don't know if it's politically correct or not, but the truth of the matter is, Casey, it doesn't even matter. We see who you are as a person, as a human being, and what you're committed to. And that's why you were selected. That's why you were selected, because you wanted something new for your life, and you showed up as someone who was willing to do the work. All the rest it really doesn't matter.
And I think at the end of the day, what matters most is character. You know, there's whether we're talking about the system, the foster care system, the prison system, people, trans, straight, you know, what character are you bringing to the world? What value are you bringing to the world? Whose life are you impacting? You know, what are you doing with your life, the life that you were given? And that's, I think that's important to us, living for causes that are greater than yourself and the character you live by today. You mentioned something a minute ago, Casey, that triggered a question for me. And what I wanted to ask is, you know, if there was that one story in your experience so far, working with Jason, crop organization, 5:30 to 9:30 at night, there was that one story that sticks out to you that was like, man, you know, that touched your heart, or, you know, it impacted you, something that was said, a word or a story. What was it? What was it? I've asked Luis that, I've asked Jesse that, and they both had their answer, but I'm curious about yours.
Well, I would sound redundant to say like the very beginning, like the words that he was speaking during the after the interview process when we did the 3-day workshop. Yeah, and when you was just I honestly don't know the words verbatim that he was talking. All I know is that I was sitting there and I felt like my mouth was hanging open and I was just getting it all in, and I just kept saying like, yeah, like I wanted to interrupt saying like, to be like, yeah, like I get it, yeah. And then but even now, just the fact that you guys brought up the whole credit thing and how important it is made me want to go actually pursue fixing it and looking into it. So I don't know. I think it's still a lot to come that I can learn from and appreciate.
Jason definitely could have had a life as a banker. But that's a great thing to hear, Jada, to hear that, you know, we're over here doing leadership for life and somebody gets inspired to want to go get their credit fixed.
Yeah, because I've never until this class, I never really cared or thought about how important credit is, because I just spent money, you know. And so, but when it comes time to want to go apply for an apartment or, you know, something like that, they look at credit. And so I didn't really pay much attention to it until it started being brought up in this class.
And that is the financial aspect of a program. Jay, would you speak to that some?
Well, sure. I mean, I think we have a pretty good model that provides our associates with a stipend that's broken up into 3 different accounts. One account is to help, you know, ease some of the economic burden in their checking account that they can spend as they see fit. And then there's a separate account that's established for secure credit card to help them build credit over the course of the program. Some of the associates who come into the program are coming in with the 0 credit score. Some have, you know, some serious credit issues, and the whole purpose of the secure credit card is to help them build it back up. And then the third account is a savings account, which is released to them upon graduation to help them secure housing, to pay for the first and the last on a place of their own. So, and along with that, you know, we provide through our partnership with Beneficial State Bank, financial literacy training on Mondays and Wednesdays, where we kind of walk people through how to save money and how important credit is. And I'll say this, Casey, I've been learning a lot too, because yeah, there you go, there it is.
But even the guest speakers that you bring on, like Akhtar, like his metaphor speaking is like, wow, you know, it makes me want to learn, because I love the Buddha metaphors that they have. It's just positive. Everything is positive about it, you know, that they say, you know, about life is good and this, you know, things like that. So
it's all about manifesting our futures, right? Like the story that's going on between our ears and the actions we're putting behind those stories are creating our future. And speaking of that, I want to ask you, Casey, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
And I see myself as a constant inspiration to other people. I think that's just, if I could just help one person, and I feel like I did my job. So I don't know. I just want to be a pillar and somebody that, people know, hey, I was in there locked up for 10 years. Same, I came from nothing and here I am. I didn't allow failure to be an option. So, and that's wherever I'm at in my life. I just, that will always be a burning desire, is to try to like help other people as well and lead them.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll speak for Rich. You help two people right here, right now, just by sharing your story and being you and being generous and being for other people. So I say that you're going to help a lot more than one or two.
That's right.
You're just getting started.
Let's start there. It reminds me of Jason's starfish story. He could tell it in a minute or so. We haven't told that one on the show before. But you mentioned Akhtar Badshaw a minute ago. He spent 30 years at Microsoft building a culture of giving. And his book is on our website, on our recommended books page, Purpose Mindset. And he's been generous with his time and to come on our show, on our Ready for Life program and offer his tools on leadership and on purpose. And what a better world we live in if people were intentional about tapping into their purpose. And it's not always clear, right? Sometimes sometimes it's foggy on what it is, but if we got intentional about it a little bit every day and began stepping into it, we get a little clearer. And I think it starts with helping somebody. Jay, you gonna hit us with the starfish story?
Sure. So one day there was a little girl walking down the beach, and hundreds of starfish had washed up onto the beach. And she starts walking around one at a time and begins throwing them back into the ocean. And a man who was jogging by stopped and he said, what are you doing? Look at all these starfish. There's no way that what you're doing is going to make any difference. And the little girl had a starfish in her hand and she said, well, it makes a difference to this one. And she threw it in. And her saying that to him kind of sparked something in his thinking, and he began to help her. And then more people who were on the beach as the sun was rising began to help them. And before you knew it, before the day was out, all the starfish were back in the ocean where they belong. So it starts with one person making a decision that they're going to make a difference, much like you've done, Casey. And watch how people will rally around that.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Left you speechless, huh, Casey?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, because it was like it means something to him, and then just do it, Like, it doesn't matter if I could save them all as long as I touch one person. So that's true.
I like what you said, where they belong, and we were born on this earth. We didn't belong in prison. We didn't belong there, and so we can remind people with our work. We don't know where everyone belongs. We don't know what everyone's purpose is, but we'll take a stand for them to help them plant their flag, that they will find it, look for it, get intentional about it. And as you do, what a journey it is. No matter what happened in the past, like I shared earlier, you start, sometimes I get calls like, hey, what was it like in prison, And I spend so little time thinking about it. When I do think about it, I get emotional, mainly because of the people that are left behind that I love. But when you're spending a lot of time thinking about the future and who you're going to help and all that, it takes the focus off of self and all the negative or the bad that may have happened in the past. And we don't have too much time for that. What we got time for, there's only so much time left on this earth. What are you going to do with it? So KC, this prison post probably be seen by future people who go through our Ready for Life program. Probably going to watch your podcast and see what your experience was like. We're working with CDCR to get our podcast on the institutional channels in there, and so they could be inspired, or who knows how it'll impact every single person. If you had some words for those watching in the future, whether they're justice impacted who will, consider joining our program or still incarcerated who are preparing themselves for their freedom, what would you say?
I definitely say to just take a chance, you know. And I'm giving it from the perspective of me, is because I was given a second chance, I feel like, at life, being out here right now. And so I try to live every day like it's my last, be a better person than I was the day before. So I would just say, you know, everything happens for a reason. And if this resource came across your lap, then it was meant for a reason. Whether you know, take it or take something away from it, it was meant to come across your life for a reason. So, and I'll always be a phone call away. They don't have to see the video.
That's right.
Definitely.
So speaking of that, before Jason shares like some final words, let's talk about that. Resources. You're a resource. The work you do is a resource. What's your title? And then people in need of resources with the organization you work for today, how do they reach out to you, your organization? Yeah, that's it.
Yes. So I work for TGIJP and I'm a housing navigator. And basically my job consists of, we have the DMV fee waivers. And then as clients come in and they need the California IDs, I either take them and lift to the DMV, which I have a report with them, and we go straight to the front of the line and they get they receipt the same day. I'm also in charge of making sure that they have their social security cards, which is right up the street here. Birth certificate, we deal with another organization that can get it as like a fee waivers, which is St. Anthony's. I've built resources for the food bank. I actually still go to Oakland, my organization. They donate food from the food bank to bring it here. So now they have that resource here. They like food stamps, you know, I help with the food stamps. Any job resources I see, I try to provide it, because our organization is mostly transgender, homeless people or recently incarcerated. So it's like that population, like, is like most of them are sex workers, so they really don't have incomes and stuff like that. So whenever San Francisco does anything for the community, I always try to like pull those resources in. Yeah, so that's pretty much TGIJP. They have 3 facilities where they house it's majority trans women here. And yeah, I've just come with whatever resources I had and knowledge that I have, and just try to lead them and guide them the same way I did when I got out. Mm-hmm. How to go to DMV, how to go to Social Security, everything that I did when I got out, I just try to lead people that same way, and I've been successful ever since.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Well, I just want to, recognize your value, Casey, as a servant leader. And thank you for your participation, not only in our program, but in your own life. I experience you as fully participating in your life, and that's where it's at. And when you were sharing all those accomplishments, the one thing you left out is that you will be the first graduate of Crops Ready for Life program.
Right.
And that's going to be a big one in my book, if nowhere else. And
I know. Mine too. I was chosen for the second pilot program. I mean, that means a lot. Like wow, because anybody that come after me is kind of like, it's an umbrella effect. That's why I try to always, be respectful wherever I go, no matter what, because they always think of, they always stereotype people. So I don't want to give nobody that, So yeah, I'm happy. I'm excited. And then I also reached back out to that organization to tell them thank you, because they actually sent me the resource for this class.
That's dope.
Yeah, through email. So yeah.
Well, Casey, I'm grateful for you coming on the Prison Post podcast. This is our 3rd episode in the series with our Ready for Life associates. And something you said reminded me of something that Dr. King said when he was talking about his eulogy. He said, when you pick someone to do my eulogy, don't let it be a long one, and don't tell them about my don't let them talk about my 300 or 400 awards and certificates. He said, and if you want to tell them that I was a drum major, tell them that I was a drum major for justice. Tell them that I tried to help somebody. Tell them that I took a stand for what is right, righteousness. So I heard that a lot in your language. So sounds like you're on the path.
That gave me the chills. That was cool. I never heard that before.
Oh yeah, YouTube it. KC, once again, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming on the Prison Post podcast. Thank you for being one of the stars in the Ready for Life pilot program, career development, professional workforce development program. We appreciate you. And for those of our guests that are watching, that's right, crop swag.
I don't got the bag right now.
One of these days we're gonna swag it up a little more, but hey, that fluorescent green was pretty nice. What I want to say to those out there watching the Prison Post podcast right now, talking with KC, is this: for a program like this, it requires funding. If you go on croporganization.org, you can hit that donate button. For each of our Ready for Life associates, as you know, just like with KC, he's at work right now. They work a full day and then, spend 4 hours with us at night. And, to supplement their housing costs, we didn't even cover that, but, KC got a raise and, lost his opportunity to some of the subsidized housing opportunities and living out in the Bay Area is rough. And so we offer $1,000 stipend and that definitely, can offset some of the costs, provides some of the food and whatever else is needed. So if you'd like to donate to our program, you can hit that donate button on Crop Organization's website. If you want to follow us on social media, you can hit us on any of the major social media channels or look at the Prison Post on YouTube or Crop Organization on YouTube. And there we also have a link tree that'll connect you everywhere. Once again, thank you for coming on our show, KC. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And please donate because it's for everybody who's behind this cohort as well. And for them, for even opening their hearts to even have a seed of thought to want to do this. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm grateful and honored. So thank you.
All right. Peace.
Thank you for listening to The Prison Post, a production of the Crop Organization. We'll be sharing more stories from the world of prison reform and restorative justice, so please join us. You can listen to The Prison Post on all major podcasting platforms. Subscribe to our video cast on YouTube and like us on Facebook at The Prison Post and at Creating Restorative Opportunities and Programs.